He was a popular cartoon character that's been around since the 1930s. He was a successful basketball player whose career took off in the 80s. Put them together and you get SpaceJam, the 1996 adventure movie which blends actors with animation, where Chicago Bulls superstar Michael Jordan enters a cartoon dimension where he teams up with some of our favourite Looney Tunes characters in order to win a basketball game against some menacing aliens who want to enslave the Looney Tunes in order to have a successful theme park, in which Jordan proves that he still has the moves to shoot some hoops in not only the real world but the cartoon one as well. In 1996, SpaceJam was huge. It was literally all over the place. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing the image of Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny all over the place. So to celebrate, we are going to look into 10 amazing facts about SpaceJam in order to relive those late 90s memories. So let's check it out.
Y'all ready for this?
Bugs Bunny?
You were expecting maybe the Easter Bunny?
You're a cartoon, you're not real.
Not really. If I weren't real, could I do this?
Number 10. It started off as a string of commercials.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now.
Well, yeah, who would have thought that SpaceJam would have started off over something as simple as TV commercials? In the early 90s, Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny, along with other Looney Tunes, teamed up to star in a string of Nike shoe commercials. The adverts were an instant hit, as people couldn't get enough of watching the world's greatest basketball player joining forces with the world's greatest cartoon character. The lineup of adverts did wonders for the Nike brand, as it seemed that people got a lot of fun of watching the Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan double act, which instantly started rumours that a theatrical movie based on this epic team-up was in the works. But it wasn't as simple as that. Number 9. Jordan's basketball comeback got the ball rolling. It seemed that there was public interest in seeing the adventures of Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan further explored in a theatrical movie. However, there was some resistance, on the account that at the time, Jordan had retired from basketball, and even pursued a career in baseball. So I guess the logic was, why would there be a movie about Jordan playing basketball when, well, he no longer plays basketball? Even Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman got on board as the project's producer and was trying to get the Jordan and Bugs Bunny movie off the ground. However, when Jordan made his comeback in basketball, there was suddenly a vested interest in the project. And thus, Warner Bros. Greenlit the project and SpaceJam was now a reality. Number 8. From Beatles to basketball. The director of SpaceJam was Joe Pytka, who was most well known for directing music videos and adverts. His credits include a Pepsi commercial with Madonna, as well as directing a string of Michael Jackson music videos, including The Way You Make Me Feel. However, in 1995, 1 year before SpaceJam, he directed the music video for the Beatles song Free as a Bird, which was a new Beatles song at the time, created via using unreleased vocal recordings by John Lennon. And I think when watching Free as a Bird, you can see that Pytka is a visionary director, able to work with animation and special effects, as he splices old footage of the Beatles and makes it interact with new footage. And making the video wasn't easy either, as no one could agree what type of bird should be featured in the music video, with both Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono chiming in on their own ideas, as well as Ringo requesting a scene with an elephant, and so on. Despite this, the video won a Grammy Award for Best Music Video. And I like to think that that's what led him to be the director of SpaceJam. Number 7. A new Looney Tune was created for SpaceJam. Considering Bugs Bunny has been around since the 1930s, I guess someone finally thought it was time to give him a girlfriend. To which we get the creation of Lola Bunny, an original character created specifically for Space Jam. I guess you could say she was the Jessica Rabbit of Space Jam. Her character had wit and was sassy and proved popular with fans. So much so that even beyond Space Jam, her character has become a part of Looney Tunes lore, with her even turning up in recent Looney Tunes series. Heck, at one stage even Kristen Wiig voiced the character. So thanks to Space Jam, whether you like it or not, Lola was here to stay from then on. Number 6. Co-stars. Putting the hype of Michael Jordan aside, Space Jam actually had a huge lineup of famous faces who appear throughout the movie, namely Bill Murray, who plays a supportive role, as well as Wayne Knight, fresh from the gates of Jurassic Park. Spawn star Teresa Randall plays a fictional version of Jordan's wife. Space Jam also features fellow basketball players Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, and Charles Barkley, who in the 90s also had his own strange encounter, only with him it was Godzilla. Even the guy who voiced Homer Simpson and that actress from Everyone Loves Raymond managed to make an appearance. Space Jam also features voice performances from Danny DeVito as the movie's main villain, Mr. Swackhammer, as well as Billy West, who provides the voice of Bugs Bunny. West frequently voices the popular Rabbit, as well as Ren from the Ren and Stimpy show. And even legendary voice actor Frank Welker lends his voice as Michael Jordan's Bulldog. Well, Welker has voiced Fred from Scooby-Doo, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, and Megatron from Transformers, so I guess he can add Michael Jordan's Bulldog to his resume. Seriously, how random. Number 5. Merchandise Jam. As you would imagine, there was tons and tons and tons and tons of merchandising associated with Space Jam. I mean, come on, the movie started because of a series of adverts. As if it wouldn't. And both Michael Jordan and Looney Tunes were very bankable names. First up, there was a line of action figures which were made by Playmates, who also brought out the famed Ninja Turtle figures. And to be fair, the figures were pretty impressive with great detail. Also with the merchandise we got comic books, a novelization, a pinball game, video games, Happy Meal toys, those fluffy ball thingies that I always see around but still don't know their name, coffee mugs, pens, and, beach towel? Because Lord knows, no Space Jam fandom should be without Space Jam the beach towel. The one item that everyone probably remembers the most is the video game, and one of the first I remember on the PlayStation, which was essentially just a basketball video game, and it represented the movie pretty well with accurate graphics. And of course, not forgetting the movie's soundtrack, which was also a hit. Number 4. Release. Space Jam was released on November the 15th, 1996 and made $230.4 million on an $80 million budget. Despite the fact it did quite well, and was the talk of the time, it supposedly still wasn't the knockout success that Warner Brothers had hoped that it would be. After all, in 1996, it seemed nothing could top the impossibly popular Independence Day. The reviews for the movie were fairly decent, with certain criticisms ranging from the movie's animation to Michael Jordan's performance. However, someone who was very skeptical of Space Jam was original Looney Tunes contributor Chuck Jones, who worked on the old Looney Tunes shorts as well as creating the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. Jones flat out called Space Jam terrible, and objected to some of the movie's humour, mainly the line about Porky Pig wetting himself.
Boo.
I wet myself.
Number 3. Sequel Madness. Ever since the release of Space Jam in 1996, there have been talks of a sequel. Space Jam 2 was to come out as early as 1998, with Joe Pytka coming back to direct, as well as several animators being scheduled to work on the sequel. However, the sequel fell through because Michael Jordan didn't want to star in Space Jam 2, and immediately plans stalled from there, and since then there have been many stories floating around about a Space Jam sequel. At one stage, the sequel was going to star Jackie Chan, and then there was reports that it was going to focus on golfer Tiger Woods. It goes without saying that the project has been in production hell. Although in recent years it's been confirmed there will be a Space Jam 2, starring LeBron James, which is scheduled for a 2021 release. However, the failings of Space Jam 2 led to the creation of another live-action animated Looney Tunes movie. Number 2, Back in Action. So far, the closest Space Jam has to a follow-up is Looney Tunes Back in Action, which went into production when the original plans for Space Jam 2 fell through. Unlike Space Jam, which takes a sports movie approach, Back in Action takes a more spy spoof approach. Because gee whiz, there was no spy spoof movies at the time. Supposedly the movie was to be called SpaceJam, which was a reference to Space Jam, but became Looney Tunes Back in Action. Yep, that Looney Tunes movie starring Brandon Fraser that no one really talks about anymore. The movie was directed by Joe Dante, who was hired by Warner Brothers thanks to his work on Gremlins and Inner Space, and Back in Action came out in 2003 and was a commercial and critical flop, and was the last movie to be scored by movie scoring legend Jerry Goldsmith, and is the last theatrical Looney Tunes movie to date. But hey, this is another movie for another review. Number 1, Spike Lee nearly wrote Space Jam. In the early days of the movie's production, none other than Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing director Spike Lee offered to work on the original script of Space Jam. Apparently there was excessive work done to the script, with writers frequently coming and going, until Lee came forward and offered his trusty services for fixing the script and making it the best that it could be. Lee actually has a history with Michael Jordan, as the two are friends and even starred in some commercials together, and although having the genius of Lee on board may have sounded like a sure win, sadly Warner Brothers weren't sold on the idea, and thus we can never say, hey, remember that time Spike Lee wrote a Looney Tunes movie? Which when you think about it would have been pretty awesome. When I saw Space Jam as a kid, I didn't think it quite lived up to the hype that had surrounded it. But that said, I still found it perfectly enjoyable. And it's a staple of my childhood. And even now when I watch it, I still have lots of fun with it. And it will always bring back memories. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Space Jam 2. If it ever happens. Anyway, I'm Minty, and remember, one Nike commercial can go a long way. Space Jam is proof of that. See ya!